So the other story that I would want to tell is when I was in the army and I was traveling to Fort Bragg, Georgia, from Korea. I was talked into extending in the army in order to be a paratrooper, to be in the 82nd Airborne by my supervisor in Korea. He had left Korea earlier than I did, and he was in Fort Bragg. And I got the wrong ticket. I got it in my brain that Fort Bragg is in Raleigh, North Carolina, not Fayetteville.
Oops.
So I got tickets to Raleigh, and I ended up there. And I'm like, okay, where's the bus to Fort Bragg? And they're like, there's no bus to Fort Bragg from here. What are you talking about? We're 100 miles away from there. And I was like, what? So now I'm in this airport, and so I'm crashing out on a bench. I called my supervisor to see if he maybe could get something to help me, but he was on his way to the field, and so he was like, "Sorry, I can't help you. Bye." Click. Very quick conversation with him on the phone. So I'm kind of stranded on my own in this airport. It's emptying out quick because it's Fayetteville. It's not Chicago. It's not open
Mm-hmm.
24 hours. It's very cold outside, and it's like just before Christmas, so it's winter. I fall asleep on the bench, and when I wake up, it turned out somebody stole my wallet, so I don't even have any money anymore or anything.
Oops.
And so now I really have nothing. I'm just sitting there without any idea what I'm going to do next. So this guy comes up to me, just random person. I don't think he worked at the airport even. Just this random guy said, "Hey, you look like you need some help here." And and I just told him my story. And he was like, "Well, why don't you come spend the night with me at my house, and then I'll get you back out over here in the morning, and we'll get you on a bus, and we'll get you to Fort Bragg." And I was like, "Doesn't know me from Adam." I mean, he not only did he help me out, but he took me home to his house, put me up, gave me something to eat. He let me crash on his sofa. We get blankets and all this kind of stuff. I don't mean like he just threw me there. No, we actually treated me like a guest, and then took me in the early in the morning because the buses were leaving to get out of there to go to Fayetteville like at 6, 7 in the morning. So we had to get up super early the next day after he took me home from there at like 3. And so got me there, got me on the bus, and got me all the way to where I needed to go in time so that I was in AWOL. And again, just absolutely no benefit to himself. It was just he saw an opportunity to do something kind for somebody, and he wanted to do it. He wanted to help. He just wanted to help.
Did you find out what had him at the airport at 3 o'clock in the morning?
What's that?
Did you find out what had him at the airport in the first place?
I'm sure he told me, but I can't remember what it was. It's possible he did work there. It's possible he was a custodian or something like that. He wasn't like he was the guy standing behind the counter watching me
Right.
for an hour or so before saying, "I gotta help this out, this
Right.
poor kid." It was somebody who was just kind of randomly walking by. That one really stuck with me. That there are people who are just willing to go out of their way to extend a hand to somebody and just help them out.
And these would have happened when you were recruiting. You were 18.
Yeah.
And on
Yes.
your way to Fort Bragg, how old were you
23.
then? 23. Okay.
Yeah.
Young enough to be stupid, old enough to
Yeah.
know you were in trouble.
Yeah, exactly. Old enough to have known better than to get the wrong doggone ticket.
Yeah, that was kind of dumb.
That was kind of dumb.
Besides the point. And so
Yeah.
the question then is, what long-term effect did those have on your life?
Well, I would say
other than you not being AWOL.
Other than me not being AWOL, which is kind of a big one. Well, I would say the most important influence that these experiences had is just a general sense that of the goodness of humanity. That when you hear sort of cynical stories about terrible people, this kind of experience in your own life, for me, offsets it. Like, it makes me question what's going on in those people's lives that have caused them to be to behave in the bad ways that they did. Rather than assuming that they're bad people to their core, because people are bad. My default expectation of people is that they're good, and I would say that these experiences are what really hammered that assumption home, that it's better to look for the good in people because it's there. that's the default. The good is the default. The bad is something went wrong, and the good is the default. And that's
Interesting.
been very important for preventing me from, well, from a very practical standpoint, from saying the wrong things to the wrong people at the wrong times.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you assume sort of a sinister motive
Right.
in people, then even an innocent mistake can cause you to get into a very negative relationship with them.
Right.
But if you assume it was a simple mistake until they do something to prove that it was a sinister motivation,
Right.
then you find that very often it's something innocent, and you can both forgive each other and go forward instead of getting mad and wrapped around the axle about it.
Yeah.
And I would say that these experiences key directly into that.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's actually a conscious decision that I made a long time ago, was to always assume the best, always assume the good in people. I prepare for it to not be accurate,
Right.
but I always assume that they meant well. And so, like when people do something that seems like it was bad,
Yeah.
I assume innocence in the act, and that doesn't necessarily mean I'll let them take advantage of me. But if if it's a question of did they mean to do well and made a mistake and it came across badly, or were they actually being
deliberately off.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I find that that's made a big difference in how I look at people too. And I think actually I made that decision before I got married to Heidi, so that would have been over 24 years ago.
Yeah.
And I was coming out of pretty questionably moral position inside myself.
Yeah.
And I had to consciously fight back from that, and because I wanted to be a positive influence on the world. I didn't want to leave it worse than I found it. Right. I guess in a way this is kind of a furtherance of that. This is the 24 years of growth that I've made. Is right. Now I want to try to spread the positive to more people than I can reach in person.
And that actually, he said something about seeing the good in people despite the message that everybody is bad, what's going on now. And he said that the motive behind that bad act, that it's not a bad person, it's just a bad situation. But where I thought he was going, because this is how I view it, is what is the motivation behind the stories that you hear? The news, media outlets, and newspapers. It's just you turn it on and it's just so constantly negative, and it brings about that negativity to a more private environment. So you that's how you see the world, and you give up. You start giving up on humanity. But I can almost guarantee you, most people, if you ask them about their neighbor, you ask them about the guy at the grocery store that brings back the carts, whatever it is, and they can think of good people, but they still see the entire world as this negative thing as a whole.
Right. Yeah.
I would like to see the world as a positive place. I do see the world as a positive place, but I would like the world to see the world as a positive place. Yeah.
I did not know that about you. So I thought it was funny you were talking about the silver lining, and Shaun's got
he's
a
very
silver lining around his head.
Oh, that's cute.
He's got so much patience and understanding, and it's annoying, but